Pinball Mayhem here. Today we're going to replace a light socket in a pop or dead bumper. And what is a dead bumper after all? Bumpers came out in about 1936, and originally they were not like a pop bumper. They are just a round target like this that it would be hit with a ball. This is a simulation, not an actual one. And they would make contact with a nail, which would be conducted to a circuit and score a point. Later on, after the nail got all carboned up, they realized that they had to switch it out, and they went to a carbon ring that was mounted underneath the playfield, and then it had a point that came from the bumper that would move around. Now these carbon rings quickly wore out, and were generally not long lasting, so they were higher maintenance than what they have now. Still a spring bumper. And move forward to a traditional dead bumper body. This is used on a lot of EM games. Came about in about 1939. The plastic bodies came out, and there's a rubber ring that goes around here, and it still is dead. It doesn't have any action, any motion that it adds to it. It just is scoring with a plastic disc underneath it. A skirt. Now, the original skirts were metal, and then quickly went to the plastic with the spoon. Now, if you notice, this is a skirt from a pop bumper. That's a skirt from a dead bumper. So if you're working on one that's dead, make sure you get the correct skirt without the 2 extra holes. It still would function, but then you're going to have that hole poking around the body. And so when they first went to a live bumper, a pop or power bumper, they ended up putting slits in the side of the same body, and that's what allowed the contact ring to go up and down in the pop bumper that we know today. Notice it still has the groove, just like this body. In fact, show you, these are on my 1949 College Daze, and the pop bumper came about in late 48, so this is a very early example. Now this is a later body off of a Dancing Dolls, and if you look at the groove in it is a lot more, it's molded in there. This one, it looks like it's cut. These are original bodies, and this game has 3 dead bumpers. As we can see, has the rubber ring in there, and the body, which looks essentially the same. Now these 2 pop bumpers, even though they're separate solenoids, sometimes operate off the same switch, so hitting this one or this one will cause them both to fire. For the rubber ring that goes in there, 1-inch ring is a standard size, and this is a replacement bumper I'm going to be putting on my Meteor. And I just work around the bottom, and it's supposed to be pretty tight. Now, when I have a bumper off a game, especially if it's an original one, these cleaned up pretty nice. I decided to leave with the originals one on this game. I use a 1-inch on the bottom. Now, sometimes manual calls for a 1 1/4, and just for demonstration, put my 1-inch out here. I'm going to put a 1 1/4 on this other body. Still fits fine. It's still going to work. Now, I do still use 1 1/4s on these dead bumpers, but that's when the body is installed on the playfield. So you have to stretch around the top, especially if you have an original bumper. A 1-inch is going to cause a lot of, could cause extra stress you don't need. So for this one, I'm going to go with another 1-inch, and these will be ready to be installed later. One last thing to touch on with this one, I know you're looking at it saying that actually would clean up pretty nicely. And the reason I replaced this one with a brand new one is the pop bumper caps were shot, and I had to get new caps. And this is off a Meteor again, but they sometimes, the bodies shrink or the cap shrinks with older ones, so you have to check if you're going to replace an older body. You may have to buy new caps. Keep in mind, these are a couple bucks a piece, less. These can be $6 a piece or more. Now you saw how loose that was. This is a brand new cap. For the Meteor, I got all new caps and bodies to make it easy. Time to replace the light socket. This is the one most commonly used in EM games. Also some newers. And this is the original, just for reference, if anyone's interested what they were using in 1949. A little bit different design, but it worked. These are still, they work alright. A lot of people are tempted to try to use these, which are on wires to keep them centered, or even these, which are on a wire rather than a stiff wire. This is for the 555 bulb, and it's going to sit too tall, and you're going to risk melting your cap. A good trick Jeremy showed me was install the bulb before you put this in there, and the reason is otherwise you may get it a little bit too tight and it's going to be hard to get the bulb in or out. This way you can install it on your own terms. One thing, never want to push too hard. We don't want to bend this little spring piece more than we have to, and that's a good reason to replace these. If they're working alright, I wouldn't go out and buy new ones because they always give troubles. There's just a low profile socket. So now that that's installed, what I like to do is the outside of the bulb, I like to try to connect that to the common wire. So that would be this leg, not the center. The common wire in the game. If it's a AC game, of course, doesn't matter. If it's a DC game, you want to try to figure out what side is the ground. Sometimes bulbs like these two share one, so there's two wires underneath. We want to try to hook up the outside to ground. Because that's going to allow somebody else to put LEDs in if they want to. This one's an AC. I'm using, doesn't always use new bulb for this. They're a pain to get in and out. It's always good to use a brand new bulb. This one, I have the I've looked underside, and it's just going to go all the way until those flat tabs are flush with the socket. Here's a look. Install all the way in. Now we will solder the bottom side. Bottom side of the socket. I've already cut one leg short. What I'm going to do, fold that leg down, and I will solder that to that wire. This one, I'm going to cut a little shorter. I'm going to fold it down and away from this bracket. Sometimes there's staples that hold these. This one doesn't have it, so I'm just going to cut it short, fold it down, and then solder it on. These new sockets came from Pinball Resource, and real happy with the way they solder. There we go. While I have the game over, I just wanted to point out that while I have the game upside down, I wanted to point out that not all bumpers are round. Anything the ball hits and scores is considered a bumper. And here is a stand-up. So it's a little bit of an unusual. So rather than the switch on a newer game coming through the playfield and the rubber sitting on this, it's actually completely upside down, and then there's wire. And I'll point out the wire that actually hits it and will make contact. Here we can see the top sides of those bumpers. One limitation, they only do move one direction, so there's going to be a band that goes around here, but also the plastic, there's no T-bolts like on newer games. Plastic is held down by the screw that goes through it, and then the rubber band will go on last. So I can't put those bands on yet. They are in the mail. And pop bumpers all installed. Caps are all clean. One thing to point out is always make sure you clean the insides of your caps. A lot of people don't think about what you don't see is also important. Same with any inserts you have, anything where light's going to come through. When working on a game, make sure you clean the inside. I already showed you the dead bumper body and the power bumper body for the dead. I think these are also called advanced bumpers, both of these body types. Just going to show you a few other different types of power bumper bodies out there. Here's a little unusual one where the top is built in on it. Here's another style. Here's another style that actually has the clip on. I believe ballet uses these a lot. Also the socket plugged in through it, so you could take this off without having to desolder. I believe I showed you this one, and here's the last style. Most popular nowadays, I believe it's called the Williams style. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please subscribe.